right, we should be good.
Okay, thanks for joining, everybody. I'll call the meeting to order. So the first item on our agenda is any new public comments. Anybody have anything they want to bring up for new business?
Tim does.
Hi, Paul. I'd like to make a public comment.
Sure, please.
So I just wanted to start off and say thank you for the time, and that my public comment in no way reflects any of the groups that I affiliate with or any employees or employers. And I would like to make a dissent regarding the disc golf recommendations for Horace Hill, as I do not believe that the disc golf course is in the best interest for the economic development of the town for 3 reasons. One, the disc golf course at Horace Hill directly competes against local businesses, which have invested in disc golf venues in the Bytown region. The Sitzmark notably is one of those within a reasonably close distance of the Dover area and has a great facility on a 9-hole pre-existing golf course. 2, disc golf course would take up an enormous amount of terrain on that Horace Hill property, which could affect the overall experience of the facility for naturalistic recreation, as all other user groups types would have to yield construction to the design of the disc golf course, or have risks of stray discs flying around on hiking and biking trails by users that might not have the control of the same use as a regular user. And then 3, the disc golf does have a slight cost of entry and limitations, so that you have to have those supplies that are not necessarily readily available in our stores and consumer areas, and that the use of that facility wouldn't be utilized in a multi-use, multi-season. It is apparent that there is an adamant group that does support disc golf in our area, and there is an interest. I don't believe that Horace Hill is the proper property for this activity. I do ask yourself, as a committee, to think about if this group was here prior to the decision to purchase Horace Hill, or if it arose after the purchase. If this group has a reliable history of volunteers and nonprofits that will maintain and assisting the course. And lastly, if the disc golf course is a long-term recreation facility that we can invest in and see an ROI from, and if it'll affect our local businesses in a positive way, especially if they consider to invest in a disc golf venue as well. I thank the committee for their time and consider tabling disc golf from the Horace Hill property.
Okay, thanks, Tim. So we actually have disc golf at Horace Hill later in the agenda. Jeremy is going to address that. So I'm going to guess Jeremy will also want to address what you've said. I think we'll probably hold it until that part of the agenda. Is that okay? Is that okay with you, Jeremy?
Yeah, but we have like enough to talk about there. A lot of Tim's spoken against disc golf multiple times at these meetings, and some of the stuff he's even already discussed, we've already talked about. So I don't want to take too much away from what we had to present, because he's already, I mean, several of the things there are just not accurate. And I've already talked about it, and he hasn't reached out to me at all to talk about those things since. So I'm happy to talk about that, to answer all of his questions, but it's just very confusing to me and a surprise that he brings it up in public comments instead of to me individually. Or so maybe we'll just need some extra time in order to address his questions.
Absolutely, yeah, we'll do that. And Eric, I see you're raising your hand.
Thanks.
Yeah, so I think we'll Tim, thank you for your comments and your concerns and considerations. I think we will, the point of these groups talking tonight is just to talk about their tentative plans. No final decisions will be made as of this meeting. This is literally just to inform the group of the plans that these groups have put together. And at a later date is when we'll be discussing, whether or not those plans are actually implemented on the property. So again, I appreciate your concerns and your comments. And Jeremy, I know you will have a chance to address those concerns and comments at some point, but I think we'll stick to the agenda tonight, which is literally just providing that information to the group about, what it is you'd like to see there.
Thanks, Eric. Yeah. And so, Jeremy, we have a kind of a tight agenda later, but since the topics were brought up, I think we'll give you some time if you want to just respond to those specifically in this meeting, even though no decisions are being made tonight, just to give you a chance to address the concerns that were brought up. So just moving on, just in case anybody else has any new business public comments from anybody. Seeing none. Oh, yeah. Patricia?
I'm going to research this more, but today on the news, quite a few times, I heard about the topic of ATV trail use and ATV clubs wanting to have access to like town streets in some Vermont towns. And I know this meeting's tight, but maybe I'll research that on my own. I just wanted to get a little bit more informed on ATV kind of stuff, if it was affiliated with or common usage with Bass Trails a lot.
So real briefly, I can tell you that the vast trails generally don't include wheeled vehicles during, not the snowmobile season. I'm going to put Andy on the spot a little bit here because he knows a lot more about this than I do. And I'll just ask, should we make this an agenda item for a future meeting, or
Yep.
Andy,
Yep.
should we do that? Is that better for our agenda?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll add that to our next meeting, and Andy, hopefully you'll be there because I think you're probably the person that knows the most about it from my perspective.
Paul, did you want me to comment on that? Were you saying, am I the Andy you were talking about? I'm a little
Yeah, sorry, Andy
confused.
McLean. Yeah, sorry. And I think it's probably a larger topic because Patricia, I think you're asking, do we want it, and have any organized groups reaching out to us, things like that. You just want to get up to speed on whether it's
Okay.
happening. And yeah, so that's probably a longer topic than we have time for tonight.
Cool, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else? Public comments? Okay, seeing none. Next up is just to approve our minutes from the February 9th meeting. Has everyone had a chance to see them, or does somebody have any comments before we just vote to approve them?
So I neglected to send the minutes with the agenda, which I need to remember to do in the future. But the voting members who were there in February who can motion and vote on this now were Sarah, Paul, Steve, Allison, Mike, Patricia, and Kristen.
So does anybody want to make a motion to approve the February 9th meeting minutes? Sarah?
I
You're
approve.
muted, but I saw.
I second.
Okay. All right, having a second, all in favor of approving the February 9th meeting minute? Oh, Sarah, you have a comment? You're voting yes without muting? Okay. I'm practicing my lip reading skills. So, all right, all in favor of voting yes, voting to approve the February 9th meetings, including myself, I see. And any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. Thank you all. So next up, we have an update on the Ridge project update. Although I'm not sure, Eric, who that would be. Is that you? I saw you.
I'm gonna yield to Steve at the moment, Steve Petrick, and then if I need to hop in, I will.
Okay. Steve, you're muted.
There we go. Yeah, me and Eric have been going back and forth. We need to meet with, potentially meet with the Act 250 permit specialist about the parking for the Ridge project. And unfortunately, our district no longer has an Act 250 permit specialist. We have to deal with the one in Rutland. And to say they're overwhelmed is an understatement. But we're trying to work through it and get with the permit specialist to find out what we need to do on our end.
Okay. Thanks. So just next step is Act 250 approval, and then after that.
Well, no. This is just to clarify. This is just, there's a couple of steps to the process. You actually need to meet first with an Act 250 permit specialist. Then the specialist determines, all right, this will trigger Act 250, and then you have to go down that road. So we're still trying to get to the point where we have the permit specialist to figure out if we even need Act 250.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks. And you're on point with coordinating when and whether that happens.
Yeah. Me and Eric are going back and forth on that.
Cool.
When you talk about the Ridge project, isn't that is that partially an incomplete description of the project? You're talking about.
This is specifically for the parking, not the actual trails in the Ridge project.
I understand that, but I'm talking about when you talk about the Ridge project, you're talking about backcountry skiing, correct?
And the trails, everything that's incorporated in the RFP.
But I'm just saying that, shouldn't necessarily include like the Ridge Trail per se.
All right, so let me go back a little. So in talking with Dana, the way they want to break the project up is into 3 discrete sections. We're dealing with the lower area, which is the parking and the trailhead, the actual trails, the backcountry skiing zones, and then the ridge trail. They're being dealt as 3 separate parts of the same project.
Because I know the stuff on the Ridge Trail, I mean, they said that that was something that was approved and that we.
Right, yeah, that's
we could
everything
work
on
on it.
Mike. I think what you're misunderstanding is the parking may not necessarily be on federal land.
I'm
so
not
that
asking about
needs
the
to go
parking,
through
yeah.
that.
But
So
I'm not asking about,
everything that's on federal land is approved as far as the project. We need to work on the final alignments with the USFS.
right, but my question was specifically to the Ridge Trail
Right,
was that it was, we could work on it and improve it. And there was several moments in time before the backcountry stuff that got started where the Forest Service needed to decide what to do about that swamp. And we had engaged or communicated
correct.
with the youth people, the youth.
yes,
BY
the youth corps that went up
BYCC.
there with Evelyn.
Yeah, to fix that. So I'm saying, it's sort
They
of,
went up and they did a little bit of brushback. What Dana and Martina would like to see is an infrastructure to support any other trails. So doing work on the Ridge Trail isn't going to happen until the infrastructure there is to support it. That's what they would like to see us do, or that's what they've laid out for us. That is at the request of the USFS. So they would like to see the parking area built, then the trails, then the backcountry zones, then up to the ridge. This way there's an infrastructure to support all the users on that property. Because there's no parking. The only access for the Ridge Trail right now is Haystack and Mount Snow.
and Chimney Hill where they're using it already.
Right. There's no parking lot on Handle Road. So
I understand that. I understand that, but this was an existing, like I said,
it's not
part.
existing. It all became part of the IRP, the Somerset IRP. It's all one thing to the USFS. So even though there was people, I understand what you're saying, people were working on it previously, it got folded into the IRP. So it's all part of that Somerset IRP.
All right, well, regardless, the Forest Service needs to identify what their preferred solution is for that section of the trail in order to address it. Because that's always been the wrinkle.
Yep. So I think, sorry, Paul.
Go ahead, yeah, Eric, I got Patricia, I have you up next after Eric.
Okay. So, and I just wanted to clarify, I mean, Steve may begin to have these conversations with, the Act 250 permit specialists, and they may say, it's on the federal land. So, we may not have to jump over as many hurdles as we're even talking about right now, right? It's just that we need to take the proper steps to find out what needs to happen so that we're not getting this is not the type of situation with a project of this size where we're just going to do whatever we want and ask for forgiveness later, right? We're going to do it the right way. We're going to make sure that we have all of our permits and all of our ducks in a row. But again, I think we're jumping the gun a little bit here until Steve and I actually even talk to that permit specialist. We're kind of jumping the gun. Yep. There's steps to this process. So we're working through those now, and we'll keep you guys in the loop as we go along.
Okay, thanks, Eric. And just to clarify, anybody watching this after the fact, Steve was referring to Dana Strout, who's the Forest Service contact we have.
Yeah,
So Patricia, yeah, go ahead.
They had just one other thing. They are hiring a new person to replace Emily that left, and they've figured out who that is, and they're going to be slowly phasing her in.
Got it. Okay, thanks. So Patricia, and then I have Andy up after Patricia.
I just wondered, flagging the potential trail that goes from the potential parking on Handle Road, if that has been started, or
flagging is going to start in the next couple of weeks.
Is there any way that the public can be involved, or do they need any help, volunteers or anything, or that's just something
the rough flagging isn't going to be really for the public. We could have other people. We're going to have volunteers when we come in. We have to actually have everything pin flagged, but we need to go in and do the rough flagging for the alignments. Then we can go back in and do the pin flagging. And when we have to do the pin flag, and that's going to take a lot of people. So we will encourage the public to come help with that.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks, Patricia. Andy?
Yeah, so, couple of things. One, the first one, I guess, is, and if it's too much in the weeds, let me know. But I'm just wondering if you have spoken, either Steve or Eric, to the permit specialist. And if not, if you have scheduled a meeting, like, what are we looking at right now as far as specifically the next step? That would
So,
be my first question.
all right, if you would, I'll answer that. So right now we're trying to, I've been going back and forth with Rick from Rutland. We need to actually submit a formal request for Act 250 permit specialist. They then assign a permit specialist, whether it's Rick or one of the other people, to work on that project. We then can go in and ascertain if we need to do Act 250 or we don't. So that's what we're working towards. Does that answer your question?
It does. And so I guess my only comment would be, would it be wise for us to hire somebody to get this done? You know, given
when we get to the
you
actual
know,
Act 250 filing, I would say that would probably be a really good idea. Actually have somebody that knows what they're doing. But to get the initial process started, we can do that on our own. But like, it's a pretty complicated process, and navigating it would be great to have somebody that's done it before.
okay, but you're confident you can give the time and energy to this permit specialist
To get the
and
permit
to the
specialist, yeah.
application, that it's not going to take an unduly,
No, I've already
long
started. I
time?
already started working on it, and I have the application done for Crosstown and Kingswood.
Okay,
And I'm finishing up the one for the Ridge project because they want us to submit
Cool.
them all at one time.
all right. And thank you. I appreciate that, Steve. My second comment, not a question, comment, would be that, and now I got my town clerk hat on and my Robert's Rules of Order geek hat on. And just so everybody's clear, you know, in a meeting like this, participants don't have conversations. It just helps the meeting flow a lot more orderly, a lot more, you know, it's more fair to all of the participants if you are recognized by the chair before you speak. When I start having a conversation with Sarah and we're going back and forth, nobody else has a chance to speak and the moderator doesn't have control. And since, or the chairperson, and since you're all going to have a chance to be chair and you're all new at it and you're not experienced, then it takes experience to do it well. It really does. It's difficult to do. I'm not good at it. Sarah, on the other hand, is good at it. But since we're all not good at it, just keep that in mind. Always check with the chair. Hey, should I speak? Would you like me to speak? You know, somebody else maybe has their hands raised, or maybe you want to move on. Just a comment. Thanks, folks.
Thank you, Andy. Thanks very much. I appreciate it. So Eric, I couldn't tell if you had raised your hand or said a quick wave.
Nope. My only comment is thank you, Andy. I was just about to bring that up. So I think, you know, let's all work together. Let Paul recognize you on the floor before we speak, just so we're not stepping on each other's toes.
Cool, thank you. So
Thanks.
I'm gonna move on. Anybody else have anything about the Ridge project before we move on? I didn't see anybody else throw their hands up. Okay, good. So next up is an update on the Trail A project. Eric, again, I'm not sure.
That would be me.
Okay, good.
So just a quick update. We have, I did put your recommendation obviously in front of the select board, and I think I told you at the last meeting. And they had sent in their proposal, which we then put in front of the select board at last Tuesday's meeting. They have approved that we move forward with Fuss and O'Neill, which is the group that you guys chose. So thank you all so much for your work on that. And they're going to give this project a kick in the pants. We're going to start seeing some motion, maybe, obviously not in the form of construction this year, but, just getting all of the ducks in a row so that we can, get the project moving forward as soon as possible. So thank you guys for your work, and just know that project is in the very capable hands of Fuss and O'Neill at this point.
Okay, thanks, Eric. Patricia?
Does the potential, it might be out of the scope of this group, for sidewalks to continue from that point and up, like maybe to the Republic Brewery or something? Is that like a town thing, or Trails and
Well,
Rec
that's
kind of sidewalks? I don't know where they fall.
Oh, sorry, Eric.
Yep. So no, I think that is part of the conversations that we can be having as the Trails and Recreation Committee, just as the Valley Trail A- is a conversation that we're having as this committee. I believe that piece of it, or any future, expansion, would require some obviously a lot more conversation. I think the original plan for Valley Trail did end, where this project goes to. But that being said, if there was the thought that there was a need for that, or a want for that, then that's obvious. That's absolutely something that could be brought in front of the group at a future time. Probably after we get through this piece of it, just because this is the final, finished section of the Valley Trail, and this is the one that's on the front burner right now.
Thank you.
Sarah, and then Allison.
Yeah, we need to, because if it goes like going to Snow Republic, it's going to be going along Route 100, which is a state road. So we're not going to be able to just decide we want to do it and do it. There's going to be state interaction with that.
Right.
And the sections of the trail that are already done have been done with state approval and state money. So we would be looking at a partnership with the state for them to identify the areas that they would most be willing to financially support. And I believe that one of the things they're looking for is a possibility of connecting further north up to Mount Snow.
Mm-hmm.
But certainly going down to Snow Republic, or Patricia, to your building, makes sense. And we should bring that up to them, but it's not going to be something that this committee is going to get to decide. I think this committee is going to be able to make some recommendations and kind of hold, cross their fingers and hope we're heard.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. Allison, I see Joe, and I saw Tim also. So Allison, you had your hand up, right?
Yes, thank you. Actually, Sarah's probably just mentioned it on my behalf there. I was going to ask if we knew if there were any plans for the trail going north, because I know, I think it was at the beginning of last year, we had some people around measuring and discussing the chances of it going to the north. So I didn't know what had happened to those plans.
So before we move on to new answers, Eric, I think I know the answer. You're probably better poised to answer about things other than Trail A or A-. Allison's question about just heading north.
That one is not, it hadn't been on my radar to this point, only because we've been focused so much on the Valley Trail A-. So
Gotcha.
I do know that it had been a discussion obviously previously, and it's not that we've abandoned those discussions. And I would completely agree with what Sarah said. When I said that we discuss it as a group, that's to gauge the interest and just the idea before we take it to VTrans and, get approval or ideas from them. And then it would have to go in front of the select board, at a publicly warned meeting. So there's a lot of steps to it. But that's.
Gotcha. Sorry to put you on the spot. Sarah, before we move on, I thought maybe you threw your hand up to answer the question about the trail going north.
I was just going to say, yes, there were some surveys done. There were some preliminary kind of scoping to figure out where a trail could go. Because as you know, the shoulder areas of Route 100 up in that section are not great in terms of pedestrian travel. And there's also, do we go up 100 or do we go up Handle Road? Is that a better way to get people there? Obviously, for your business, that's not a better answer. But those are things that the state has looked at. This, there have been some very, very preliminary kind of investigations, but nothing that has moved to the next stage. So, I think where we're at is this committee can have some sort of a wish list and then talk to the appropriate people at the state level. The person that Eric and I have been in touch with about the A- section might be a good starting place for us to find out what do we do next if we want to expand the trail system.
Can I just say that actually it wasn't so much for the businesses, it was for the safety of the Mount Snow staff. There was so many internationals walking along that stretch of road at night in the dark, and it was becoming really quite dangerous. And of course, this year we haven't seen it because they're not here, but that was for one of the pushes for it, right? I felt anyway.
Okay, thanks, Allison. So I see Joe's iPhone. Is that Joe Mahon by any chance?
It is.
Hi, Joe.
It is me. We actually have their plans, like Sarah said, preliminary plans. We have them on a map in the town hall upstairs where we have our meetings, if anyone ever wants to look at it. And we've been a little bit further than just preliminary, especially because the one hard part about it is that one house as you come out of the post office on the left going north. So we have had a little bit more into that, and we would probably go north before we ever go south. And that's what VTrans was looking for us to do. Obviously, I've been on the board a little bit longer. That's the goal. So,
Thanks, Joe. So just for everybody's sake, can people just stop by the town offices to look at that with, COVID and stuff, or should they call first? I don't know what that is right now.
I'll find it and send it out.
Oh, you're gonna email it, Shannon? Yeah, okay. Cool, thanks. All right, Mike, I see you.
Yeah, good. No, I think to go into A and getting to the center, the toll gate village there, was sort of the end, but I've been pushing, from the beginning to get it at least to the residential sections around the corner there, because those are the people that are walking to use the trail. So, talk about A or A-, I never thought about the Snow Republic, but certainly I pushed for the Dover Green, the other condos that are there, those houses, even the places that go up to the abroad would be able to walk down to that corner and use the Valley Trail. So in terms of value and users, and I think a nice little development of that is, I believe, the Sawmill guys are buying the lot on the corner there. So it's really just that short stretch from, I think, the arrow sign to those sign plazas at the Dover Green Road that it needs to be considered an A- to have, to magnify the value that you've, tried to create along Route 100. So I don't want to push that a great deal because it adds an N to your A. I don't know.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Joe, I see that your hand is still up, but do you have something back for Tim, or is it just persisting from earlier? While you're reaching for.
how do you put your hand down? Do I have to go
I
back?
don't know.
Down?
You have to just keep
Lower
talking.
hand.
So if you're gonna leave it
Lower
up,
hand.
and you have to take over.
There you go.
There you go.
Okay.
All set.
Thanks,
All right.
thanks, Joe. And Tim, I saw you put your hand up. I don't see it now, but did you have something, Tim? Tim
You
Shannon?
had a like up. You didn't have a hand up.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Just thumb up.
Just the thumbs up. Thanks for the thumbs up. So before I move on to the next agenda item, just in case I missed anybody's hand, if you want to throw your hand up now, we got a good number of participants, so I might have missed somebody. But I don't see any, so I'm going to move on. Our next agenda item is we have 3 separate updates on the Horace Hill project. Jeremy Kirk is up first, and he'll introduce himself. We're a little behind on the agenda. I do want to try and keep it tight, but I want to acknowledge that there were some comments earlier about Jeremy's portion of this update. So if you want to talk about that, Jeremy, I think you can. Just keeping in mind, no decisions are being made in this meeting. That, you know, we're not voting on anything. This is really just to address concerns. Before you get started, I see Eric has his hand up. So it's, I'm guessing that's a point of order.
No, Paul, I was just going to ask, you know, we did allocate 10 minutes for each one of these groups to be speaking. If you don't mind, maybe just keeping an eye on the time and making sure that they, you know, everybody gets their 10 minutes to talk, because that's why we invited everybody here tonight. So that was just the point that I wanted to make. We may end up running a little later, but if you can just keep an eye and make sure everybody gets their 10 minutes.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. So
Thank you.
Jeremy, if you want to get started, you're up.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Thanks so much. Thanks, Eric and everybody. Yeah, I'd just like to talk about the project, and I'm very happy to address Tim's concerns. I'm surprised by them and would be happy to address them. A lot of them are just not, they're very easily addressed, and I've talked before about them. So I did email him during this meeting to ask for that list he was reading so that I could try to address them. So maybe what he could do is, if he wants to share those, I could address those at another time then. So with 10 minutes available, I'd just like to talk a little bit about the project and why I'm so glad that Weston Sampson, you know, recommended it in the Horace Hill location, which was not always, you know, which was not always the, you know, it was open. It was, the project was out way before then. I have had all the members of the committee, the voting members of the committee, received a draft budget, and you can look at that. I'm available to talk about that at any time. The idea behind this project is that it is both something that can support local youth who don't currently have a lot of things in the bumper seasons as well as in the summer. It is very easy to get into. It's very accessible to be able to play the sport, especially if there's a public course around. There is another local option, but that it's not really that great of a local option. And I'm so glad that people are investing in disc golf. But what we were talking about is a much better sort of facility. And that one over there is a great start to something, but it's not something that can replace what we've proposed. So the disc golf is available to people that are athletic, not athletic. I don't know how many people here have seen me, but I presented this stuff to this committee and other committees many times. I don't want to repeat myself, but I'm always available as a resource to talk about the details of disc golf. Weston Sampson thoroughly vetted a lot of things in this project, including some of the questions that that Tim had brought up. And, you know, we spent a lot of time addressing those, and they felt confident to say that not only do they recommend that, but they recommend it along with, you know, mountain biking on the Horace Hill property. Now, I love mountain biking. It used to be my entire life back when I was living in Idaho in high school, dreaming about sometime riding where Missy Giove used to race, this little place called Wilmington, Vermont, that I would read about in Velo News and things. So I really look forward to working with Steve and with Mike and with anyone else in constructing, you know, a disc golf course that also doubles to work really well with mountain biking. And it is absolutely a great multi-use sort of a facility. It's also, you know, the budget that I did send to the voting members and that Eric also has, and the select board had received in years previous. This budget is like a max budget. Steve, Eric's predecessor, had recommended that I give a max budget, like, you know, the town has nothing, you know, there are no volunteers sort of thing. So, but even at its max budget of $50,000, this to add an entire facility, this is less than half of an entry-level skate park. This is, you know, way, way less than some of the other things that we could do. And in order to do that, it absolutely would support local business. And we have the strong support of Rich Kaplan, his new building, One More Time, Dover Forge, as well as Sticky Fingers Bakery, Tony's Pizza, 7-Eleven, Invasion Snowboards. I mean, everybody around there would benefit from it. And I would love to talk in detail when we have time about any of questions that we have about that or about the industry in general. But for right now, I'd just like to say this project is ready to go. It takes about 3 months to totally produce. And I also wanted to just share, I asked Eric if I could bring a guest today. And I wanted to share the rest of my time with former disc golf world champion Avery Jenkins, who will be one of our bidders to design Avery's not only a hero in our sport, a legend in our sport, but he also is a real like major contributor to the industry and the future of disc golf. And so he can probably talk a little bit more than just a local person who loves the sport and who loves coaching and loves getting kids into the sport. Avery can really address some more specific things about the sport and about the economic potential in a community like this. So I want to just thank him for making time in his schedule and all of his hard stuff to be here with us today. And so I just want to introduce to you Avery Jenkins, former disc golf world champion, as well as someone who works with Disc Golf Park and Discmania Discs, which is one of the leading disc manufacturers.
Thanks for the intro, Jeremy, and thanks for everybody for having me on tonight. What Jeremy's hitting at and trying to accommodate, a multi-use, multi-activity kind of area, having disc golf be a part of any sports facility is a great way to integrate multiple activities, especially with trail hiking, especially with mountain biking. We have a lot of good concepts that bring in disc golf. And the one cool thing about having a disc golf course, we can have it pretty much anywhere. There's no really landscape that doesn't cater to what we do and how we want to utilize it best. We can be in the woods, we can be in the open, we can be in mountains, we can be down in the woods with creeks and streams and rivers. We can be in other areas that don't accommodate residential or business where you can't really put anything else out there. You can put a disc golf course out there. We can be around schools and recreational areas, sports facilities. This game is seen incredible growth over the last 12 months. It's one of the silver linings about the pandemic. We've literally increased by 100% within disc golf growth, activity, players, just in product and manufacturing and disc sales. And even on the course end of things, I'm getting requests every day, if not every other day, for disc golf courses and to install disc golf course at many park and rec, city parks, state parks, golf courses, private residents. So it's been really great to see just the beautiful increase, something we've been waiting for a long time. And I'd be very happy and gracious for the opportunity to be involved in this course in Vermont.
Okay, Jeremy and Avery, thank you. Sarah, was that a hand up or were you just stretching?
Yeah, if there's any more, I'd really love to just offer again to address anybody's concerns or questions that any of you have. And Avery is available to answer any specific questions now, or is available to talk about, it through me, or to contact him directly as, officials of the town, concerned citizens of what would this look like and how can this directly benefit our community and income as well. I see Allison and Sarah have hands up in case you don't see that, Paul.
I do.
And I'll be done for
so are
tonight.
you, is that, okay, thanks, Jeremy. Yeah, so Allison? You're still muted, Allison.
Where exactly would it be situated on the hill?
So the Horace Hill property, there's just a place, it would kind of just be winding through it in complement to that main kind of road that goes through there and the other multi-use, the other users such as snowmobiles and also mountain biking or hiking. So it winds through it. And if you spend time up in those woods, there's a lot of older trees and then there's a lot of younger trees that obviously was selectively harvested not super long ago. And so you can really just kind of see where places could be carved out. And just a reminder to anyone who wasn't with us last time or hasn't seen any of my other presentations, disc golf in New England is not like ball golf. You don't clear cut mass areas to put in grass. It is something that negotiates through the woods. And that was also lauded by John from Weston and Sampson as a natural way to work with the woods. There is cutting, but it's of smaller stuff. None of those big, beautiful maples up there are going to get touched.
And you can do it in the winter?
Yes, you can. So just to be very clear, I think the hardcore folks are going to do it year round, but especially when it comes to accommodating snowmobiles and specific winter users, really, we're talking about up through mid-December. That's when the big snow starts coming in that area at the earliest. So yeah, disc golfers play year round, but ultimately for most folks, it's It's like most folks that would play recreationally up to competitively, most people would go like, let's say March to December. And definitely when there's enough snow on the ground for snowmobiles to going through there, there would be no conflict at all.
Okay, thank you.
Sarah, I think I
1
saw your
minute.
hand again.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly, Avery, you talked about the kind of explosion of growth in the industry in the last 12 months, but things like that don't grow. You can't maintain that sort of growth rate continuously. It just, there comes a natural kind of tapering off point. And is there any, within the industry, is there any sign or indication of when that might be coming? Of like, are we looking at another 5 years of growth, another 2 years of growth, or we're kind of maxed out and we're going to start to see it tail off? Or what's the sense within the industry?
That's a good question. We've been growing at a really about a 10 to 15% rate for the last 35, 40 years. Every single year it's growing. And until last year is where we saw the big bang. It's always that 3 to 5 year plan. We're always waiting for it to take off or get some good exposure, get good marketing, have big tournaments. Just outside of what the bubble is at every little course throughout the country, there's a full-on national tour of pro events that circulates throughout the country. And to answer your question, it's not seeing any signs of slowing down. We're not going to double up next year. I don't see that happening again, but there's no way that's going to slow down anytime soon. The more courses out there produce more players, just continue to grow throughout our governing body, the PDGA, just events and tournament players, even at the recreational side. I honestly don't see it stopping or slowing down too much. Again, we're not going to see it double up, but we're not going to see it slow down too much either.
Okay, Andy, I see your hand.
It's
is
very
raised.
popular.
And just in case your comment or question addresses something that Jeremy or Avery should answer, I just want to point out we're behind on time. So if it's an answer, just try and keep it short if you can. So Andy.
Yeah, hi. So thanks for showing up, Avery, and thanks for the presentation, Jeremy. So I don't play disc golf. Never really heard of it until Jeremy mentioned it to me. But what blew my mind was during the Weston and Sampson process of coming up with ideas for this piece of property, the folks who own it, the people of Dover, said they want disc golf overwhelmingly. I was like, it blew my mind. I was like, what's disc golf? These are my people. I have no idea what they're talking about. So I think it's something that if we're going to listen to the folks who pay these taxes we're spending, we gotta take this seriously. And a lot of folks, Avery, have issues thinking about disc golf working with mountain biking, because
Sure.
we have a big, strong mountain biking contingent in the area. And it's been explained to me that these courses can be designed so that the disc golf and the mountain biking sort of, as long as they're designed together, they flow well and can occupy the same, say, 50 acres, which is
Sure.
what we're talking about here. I'm wondering specifically if you're aware of any places we can, take a field trip, go see. Are you aware of this working out in other places? That's my question.
Great question. So as far as having other activities, being mountain biking, being a golf course where golf and disc golf interact, they interact very well, even flow at the same rate. When it comes down to mountain biking and sharing another activity with disc golf on the same property, it comes down to how it's designed, how it's safely integrated, where you're not crossing over biking paths or going in, next to them, having enough buffer, having enough transition, but still keeping the flow of a disc golf course and a mountain biking course and having it integrate, having it coexist, if you will. As far as places in Vermont, I'm not sure on the mountain biking disc golf. Jeremy might have a better idea. There's only 44 disc golf courses in Vermont. That's probably why you haven't heard of it so much. But you go to a lot of other states, they have literally hundreds of disc golf courses. And I think within Dover, I think the nearest course is like 30 minutes. And it's a few 9-holer school courses. And there's a few other courses that are 18 holes, about 40, 45 minutes away. So you're definitely kind of in a dead zone or a pocket where there's not as much disc golf activity, but obviously the perfect place to have a disc golf course is in a place where it's not really happening just yet. Jeremy, any insight on where
Right,
other
I mean,
courses might
I
have
agree.
mountain biking?
I could send you a list, but Brattleboro is a very close course that also has mountain biking integrated and hiking trails. They have yet to have any problems. Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Good question.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys. All right, I'm gonna move on now. We're a little behind on time already. So next up is Steve Petrick is going to talk about his part of the Horace Hill project.
It would probably be helpful if I could share a screen because I have a map that I did just so that everybody can see what we're talking about in total usage of the property.
No, we're not doing that. No, I'm just kidding. I don't have control. I think Shannon is actually the
Yeah,
There you go.
moderator.
You should be okay.
Can we give him control? Or give him the ability to share screen?
You should be good.
All right, let's see
Steve,
if I can make this work.
while you're pulling it up, if you just want to introduce who you are, what your role is in all this.
Yeah, sure. I am Steve Petrick. I am the Vice President of the Southern Vermont Trails Association. We've been working on the backcountry ski zones, and then this year I've started working on getting the mountain bike and hiking trails up to where we are with backcountry skiing in the area. Let's see if I can share this. Share screen 2.
Click the green
Share.
thing. Yep. And then you won't see us when you do that.
Can you see it now?
Yep.
And just for everybody else, just interrupt for a quick second. Keep in mind, I can't see everybody right now. So if anybody has comments, wait until after Steve is done sharing his screen and then throw your hand up and I'll see that. So yeah, go ahead, Steve. Sorry about that.
Thanks, Paul. So basically what we're looking at here is the overall usage for trails, hiking and biking. The big issue with the property that had been pointed out by Weston and Sampson is dealing with the elevation change, because the whole point of the property was to make a connection over to Crosstown. The universal grade that everybody's sort of fallen to is 4.5% grade for a trail. As you can see, to gain the elevation on the property at 4.5% consistent grade, it's going to take a lot of area to go back and forth. Unfortunately, it's just a matter of math. In order to gain the property, that's sort of what we have to do. The other trails, there are hiking trails and then directional mountain bike trails to try and keep users somewhat segregated so that you don't have an issue where somebody's hiking up a downhill only trail. It happens. I mean, in an ideal world, everything would be directional, but that unfortunately wouldn't happen. But again, the directional trail that makes the connection over to Crosstown would be roughly 36 inches wide with stabilized soil and a hardened surface, and would be adaptive inclusive, so that people on hand bikes and other modes of adaptive transportation would be able to access the property, which I think would be pretty important. Generally, we just wanted people to see, this is not a finalized plan for the property, but it allows people to see roughly what we're talking about. The number of 50 acres is just a number. When we actually look and see how trails and potentially other uses on the property lay out, we can kind of start to realize that it's not a lot of property. So, we kind of need to really work with whether it's a civil architect or somebody to have the property designed around the multiple uses. But the big thing is for the property is having in that beginner and bi-directional trail so we can make the connection to Crosstown, because that was the whole point of purchasing the property in the first place, was for us to be able to connect our green spaces in town. And that's pretty much all I have as of right now for what's going on with the property.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Do me a favor, stop sharing your screen and I'll do a quick scan.
How do I unshare?
Hopefully you
Stop share.
There we go. So I believe I can see everybody now. Anybody have any questions for Steve or any comments on that? Don't see any. Sarah?
So that's a proposed map, right?
Yeah, correct. It's also to demonstrate roughly what we had originally planned for the property, what it would take up space-wise. So we can start to get an idea of the spatial relationships of the different users on the property.
And how much of the trail system is actually already
The
there?
only thing that exists is the 2 blue trails that we put in for, winter use, and that beginner loop that we had put in last year. That was existing. And again, the trails that we put in were always temporary. It wasn't something that was finalized. So it's not like we're sticking with that. But, that's it. That's all we had on there was the 2 trails that we put in. What was that, 2 years ago?
Year and a half.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Steve. And thanks for keeping it brief. So next up, we have motorized traffic in Horace Hill. So I'm going to take off my moderator hat and pass it to myself as the liaison to this committee from the Deerfield Valley Stump Jumper Snowmobile Club. And I just want to point out, although the agenda item says motorized traffic, as far as I know, the only type of motorized traffic we're going to talk about in Horace Hill is snowmobiles during the winter snowmobile season, which is December 15th, April 15th. So I just have 2 quick things on that. One is the new owners or proprietors of Sawmill Restaurant have expressed interest in having the trails that go through Horace Hill extend over to Crosstown Road so that they can have customers get there. I know Steve is already aware of that. We also have the Stump Jumper Vice President, Mike Garber, on, and I know they've spoken about this already, so we might get to that. But just suffice to say that it's something that's on our radar. We haven't gotten very far with it, but we are looking at the possibilities of that. Mike, you didn't raise your hand, but I know you're probably joined for that. Did you want to say anything about it before I move on? No? Okay, no pressure. And then the only other thing that I wanted to bring up from the Stump Jumpers perspective is there is the trail. It's at the north end of Horace Hill. I think it's green on Steve's map. And there's some things that we want to do just to make it a little safer, improve it. It's rideable now. It's a little technical. So I'm kind of stealing Steve's thunder, but I know he's got plans for work to be done up there. And part of that we want to include just clearing it out a little bit, not doing too much change to the grading of it, but just, getting some broken branches out of the way and that kind of thing. So that's also just on the Stump Jumpers radar to get the trail cleaned up. So just in case I didn't do that justice, Mike or Steve, does that cover what you wanted to hear about snowmobile trails in Horace Hill? Yes, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that me and Mike had discussed is if, we're going to have the machines in there doing the work for other trail work, to do the work for the snowmobile trail and the drainage and stuff like that, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, thanks. So that's, near future plans. We'll start to get that in conjunction with the work that, the larger amount of work that Steve has planned. Mike, see your hand. You muted, you were unmuted.
Yep. Yeah. To go back to sort of Steve's map there, I just want to remind folks that, part of the reason that property was purchased, not in addition to just, going up the hill and having something sustainable that, mortals could tackle, was also to help complete that walking loop that makes, from all across Route 100 to circle back around to the sawmill. So I just don't want to sort of forget about that as one of the intended uses, to make a circle that folks can walk regularly.
And we have a lot of walkers.
Well, I'm just saying that way they can go clockwise, counterclockwise, whatever. But I mean, just to not forget about, the walkers and the users, and to a certain degree, it goes to even, Jeremy's discussion before where, and even, where is she? Somewhere on Hollywood Squares here. The person that asked about the, whether it was a sidewalk, Patricia, about whether it was a sidewalk or a trail. And, ultimately that loop that goes around for the walkers, just like the Valley Trail in general, should be accessible to the woman in the jog stroller, sort of a cart path, for the walkers, and then everything else becomes exit ramps. So I just want to try to not let that be forgotten, because, you know, while I have mountain bike weirdo, you know, persona, it's still about the mortals that are going to enjoy all this and benefit from it in the town. So,
Thanks, Mike.
great
Yeah,
work. Yeah.
Andy, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, hi. So, you know, I had heard rumors that the sawmill folks were looking to gain snowmobile access through Horace Hill, and honestly, I was very disappointed. The trail that they would use goes right through the middle of the whole property and sort of bisects the areas where people normally snowshoe and cross-country ski and walk their dogs. And I just don't see those uses coexisting very well. And I don't see the place working nearly as well with snowmobiles running through the middle of it. Is there any way, Paul, for these sawmill folks to accomplish their goals in another way? Is there, you know,
Yeah, I'll take the floor back. So in a word, yes, you know, there's a couple of options. I'll just say that, you know, as the representative of the Snowmobile Club in this committee, it's definitely a priority for us to keep things safe, to keep things as segregated as possible so that foot traffic and motorized traffic aren't putting each other in danger or anything like that. And if there was no way to do it without keeping those things in mind, then we just wouldn't do it. I think I can speak for the committee saying that that's probably a fair presumption. Mike and I, you know, Mike from the Sometimes has spoken about this. You know, like I said, you've spoken with Steve, and there are different options. I think the next step is we should go out there and walk it. You know, I'll put Steve on the spot. I think he's a good advocate for all the non-motorized traffic, so he can make sure that he keeps Mike and I honest. And we'll see if we can work it out. And then if we have an idea that we think works, we'll bring it back to the committee and present it for debate and discussion and potentially for approval. I mean, how's that sound, Andy, for next steps?
I think that's way ahead of the game. I think, you know, I think that none of the visioning included snowmobiles through the middle of the property. As a concession, you know, the town gave you permission to use one edge of the property that wouldn't affect the non-motorized uses very much. Seeing it as a link for the snowmobile network, to my mind, we need a new visioning process. We need to know if this is what people want. Is it the people who are using this property, the people who are going to come to park on Route 100 there, you know, access these businesses and use this property specifically, you know, is this what they want? You know, it might very well be, but I think it would severely compromise what we've experienced there the past couple of years. You know, small children, it's one thing for, you know, me and Mike to be out there on fat bikes or skis or whatever. It's another thing for a family with small children to be navigating a snowmobile trail. They don't like it. They don't want it. I just wish that there was another way for them to gain access to the snowmobile network other than going through this property. But as far as next steps go, you know, I think we got to take it back a couple of notches. It's not time to come up with proposals to approve. I think the next step is to hire a professional to design the Horace Hill property based on basically the Weston and Sampson recommendations, which don't include that snowmobile trail.
Okay, yeah, gotcha. Point taken. Steve, I saw you had your hand up.
Yeah, sorry. The one thing that I would say is, you know, for all user groups, you know, across the board this past year, you know, saying that you saw a 300% increase isn't unheard of. So there's a lot of new users that weren't represented back when we did the original visioning and stuff like that. So, we have a lot more residents, not residents, but we have a lot more people full-time in town now. So that's just something to take into consideration as we're moving forward, that when we did the project with Weston and Sampson, we had less people, and there are more people just looking for all sorts of access.
Okay. Thanks, Steve. So next up, we have youth member status. Sorry, I'm choking on some water. Eric, is that you?
I'll take the lead on this one. So, excuse me. To this point, obviously, we do not have a voting youth member on our committee. It is something that I think is vitally important to the process, to have that younger voice. So I think the idea of Shannon, adding this to the agenda was just to put it back out there that if you guys know of any, responsible young people who would like to be a part of our group and kind of learn what it is to be a part of one of our amazing Dover committees, by all means, please share the information with them, have them reach out to me, and I'd really like to see somebody in that younger age bracket join us for these conversations and get their perspective as well. So if anybody knows anybody, let me know or have them contact me. Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. Sarah?
I thought we had 3 applicants. What happened to that? I know I missed some information, so I apologize if that was already discussed, but didn't we have 3 kids who had expressed interest?
Yeah, Eric, you know about that?
Yeah, so there was interest expressed. At this point, we have not received any formal requests to join the committee. And actually, I know at least 2 of the interested parties have, attended a meeting and said, it's definitely not for me. So, we're still out there. If, we hadn't heard from the 3rd interested party in a while. But if, again, if they want to reach back out or restart the conversation, or if you guys, like I said, if you know anybody, I'd love to get them on the committee.
Okay, Patricia?
Do they have to live in Dover? Because I have a senior, an 18-year-old son who mountain bikes, snowmobiles, dirt bikes, you name it, skis. He's here until college, but he lives, like in Wilmington, in between Wilmington, on the Vast Trail in Wilmington. Does it have to be a Dover resident?
It does need to be a Dover resident.
Yeah.
When the select board approved the makeup of this committee, having a Dover youth member made it a Dover resident majority
Okay.
for voting members.
And Shannon, just for clarity, is that a full-time resident? Could it be a second homeowner youth?
I don't really know the answer to that. I would think a full-time resident would be preferred, but we did have a few, and we'll just see who keeps coming back.
Okay, all right, thanks. Tim, I saw you raise your hand.
For any consideration to it being a group of children, ranging age groups that might be comprised of students at the Dover School?
I think sorry.
Okay, Eric, yeah.
So the age range for, kind of this spot on the committee was from 12 to 18. That being said, we absolutely encourage, the participation and integration of all age ranges, at these meetings. I mean, they're pretty PG as far as I'm concerned, at least they have been. So, obviously encourage the kids to be involved and listening. But I think for this specific seat, we are looking in that 12 to 18 range.
Okay, thanks, Eric. So coming down to the finish line, just a couple of housekeeping things. First of all, our next meeting date. I know in the agenda, it said that May 11th might be a conflict because of the Dover town meeting, but I think, and Andy, I'm going to throw it to you, I think town meeting is May 18th. Is that correct?
Not the town meeting, it's the town meeting informational meeting.
Oh, okay. And that's
Pre-town meeting.
May the
Yep.
11th. Got it. Thanks, Shannon. So yeah, so typically we do first or second Tuesday of the month, but there's that conflict. So Eric, I could start suggesting dates, or did you have something in mind that you wanted to start with before I?
Shannon, I think Shannon had recommendations or no?
Yeah, Shannon, did?
Nope.
No.
Okay.
So I'll start with, what about the Monday of that week? So that would be Monday, May 10th instead of Tuesday, the 11th. Anybody have a conflict or an issue, Sarah?
That's also the Dover Planning Commission Day.
Okay. How about the following, the following Monday would then be the day before town meeting. Is, Sarah, you think that's too close to town meeting? Having this the night before? No? So, all right, so I'm suggesting Monday, May 17th, which for the home users is the new tax day. So Monday, evening of Monday, May 17th. Anybody not good with that or have a conflict, Sarah?
I just want to ask, because Andy's going to be very busy with town meeting being the next day and getting everything set up. Is that going to interfere with your ability to attend the meeting?
It may very well. It may very well. I suppose if I have any comments about anything on the agenda, I can give them to the chair or whatever, and I wouldn't worry about it.
Are you
But
sure?
thank you for thinking of me, Sarah.
Yeah, I mean, you're a contributor here, so I don't want to
Yeah.
exclude you if we don't need to. Sarah, yeah.
I was just going to suggest that perhaps we could all go to Corinthia for our meeting, help Andy set up, and then have our meeting.
Perfect.
Only a little tongue in cheek there. It would be a nice occasion to have an in-person meeting if we wanted to have an in-person meeting.
And I'm not, Eric or Andy, I'm not sure if I should need a point of order for a motion for that date. Is that the proper course of action? All right, so can I have a motion? Sorry, who was that just spoke up? Is that Eric?
Nope, sorry.
I was looking at my calendar, so I didn't see. No. All right, so can I have a motion then for Monday, May 17th for the next meeting for this committee? Anybody?
Motion for Monday, the 17th.
Thanks, Steve.
I'll
Second,
second that. Oh, you got it.
Thank you. So all in favor of Monday, May 17th for the next Dover Trails and Rec Committee meeting? Any opposed? Seeing none, that'll be the next meeting. And then finally, we need to pick somebody to sit in this seat that I'm in tonight for May 17th. So I'll start with any volunteers. It's really fun, I promise. Just the part where you pretend not to look so the teacher doesn't call on you. Eric, you got something to say?
I will just say, I mean, at some point, everyone will have to give it a shot. So, take a swing now while it's a little easier.
I'll try.
Thank you, Patricia. Taking one for the team.
Patricia, I will be in touch with you prior to the next meeting, and we can go over, what your responsibilities are for the meeting, okay?
Okay.
Perfect. Okay, so before I close, just any last comments? We're a little bit over, but I don't want to exclude anybody if anyone felt like they got missed on something. Sarah?
just want to confirm the meeting will be at 6:30 on the 17th.
Sure. Sorry, I didn't say that. That's our time, right? Yep, 6:30. So 6:30, Monday, May 17th.
Want to
Yeah,
confirm. Thank you.
appreciate it. All right, seeing no more hand. Oh, Eric, yeah? Was that a hand or?
And to Sarah's point, yes, I do plan on us all meeting in person in the future, but I think until we have just a tiny more guidance on what they're allowing and how that's all going to work, we will plan on being virtual for the 17th, unless you hear otherwise from us well before.
Perfect. Sorry. Yeah, thanks. I didn't specify that. So Zoom, Monday, May 17th at 6:30.
Yes.
Okay, I don't see any more hands, so.
Paul,
Yep.
Andy.
Oh, Andy. Sorry, Andy.
Quite all right, Paul. All I wanted to say was you did a fantastic job. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Andy. Well, if you're going to be that nice, you sure didn't want us to change the date for you for the 17th? Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you. I see a lot of faces here. This seems like a peak attendance, so I appreciate you taking the time to join and contribute. And see you all next
Wait, nope, you need a motion to adjourn.
Oh,
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Okay, all in favor of adjourning the meeting?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No.
you don't actually have to vote on adjourning. You just have to move in second and then that's it.
Got it.
All right.
Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you again. Good to see you. Until next month.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.